Hello and welcome to Newsmax Daily for Tuesday, April 1st, 2025. 4/1/25 on your monitor or in your journal. April Fool's Day, so be careful, be aware, and don't do anything stupid. It's also Air Force Academy Day, marking the day that President Eisenhower signed the bill establishing the Air Force Academy back in 1954. And it's an Election Day Tuesday, believe it or not. That is no April Fool's joke. In Florida, voters are filling the vacated seats of Republican Congressman Matt Gaetz and Mike Waltz, both of whom had resigned from Congress to join the Trump administration. Matt Gaetz later stepped down as the president's nominee to serve as Attorney General. Mike Waltz is the current National Security Advisor. Meanwhile, in Wisconsin, a seat on the state's Supreme Court is in play, and it is said to be a tight race between conservative Judge Brad Schimmel and liberal Judge Susan Crawford. The outcome will impact future rulings on everything from immigration to abortion rights to education and Wisconsin's congressional map.
Yeah, there's a big race, and I hope you get out and vote for the Republican. The woman is a radical left lunatic, and let's see who wins, but the woman will be very bad. And you know, Wisconsin's a big state politically, and the Supreme Court has a lot to do with elections in Wisconsin.
President Trump in yesterday's unofficial Oval Office news conference after signing an executive order to crack down on ticket scalping and resales, preventing entertainers and fans from being overcharged and price gouged. Kid Rock, a longtime Trump supporter and advocate for lower ticket prices, was there in support of the order. And I'm going to give you more on today's elections, obviously, Cory Booker's overnight marathon anti-Trump speech, and a segment with with Newsmax founder and CEO Chris Ruddy on yesterday's monumental IPO on the New York Stock Exchange. But first, more from President Trump and Kid Rock live on Newsmax.
And I'd like to take my ticket prices lower, but if I set my ticket prices low, these bots immediately eat them up, and they resell for hundreds of dollars more, and I'm just making these bad actors rich.
Well, I think this is a big step to getting it stopped. Do you have something, Brian?
Yeah, I do, actually. I actually feel that the consumer is going to take the money that they saved and actually buy merch, which you guys have a big percentage of, or do concessions, which you guys split with the venue on that as well. So I think their money
we don't
goes
share
for
concessions a lot.
No,
those are, we try to, but they don't want to share it in the beer prices and parking or any of that stuff. But the bottom line is there's money for everyone to be made. There's plenty of money to go around. No one's going to really lose here. Ticketmaster, if we can get a cap, they're going to lose some money. But I've already talked to the CEO, Michael, and he's given me his word. He's on board for it.
I was talking to Jacoby with Papa Roach earlier, and by the way, he's a big fan of what you're doing, President Trump, digging into this whole scalping and the bots. A lot of musicians, you can say that, they're with Kid Rock, sir, on this, I think so. Without a doubt.
A lot of people are.
President Trump, would you ever wear a jacket like that?
I don't know. I was thinking about doing it for tomorrow. We have a big event coming up, and I was thinking about doing it, but I'm not sure.
If you didn't see any of this, Kid Rock was wearing an outfit, a jacket, but he also had the pants to go with it that looked like something he stole from the Evel Knievel Museum. If there is an Evel Knievel Museum. And if there isn't, there should be one. Last year, President Biden and 29 states, you may remember, joined together, filed a lawsuit against concert promoter Live Nation, who also owns Ticketmaster, arguing they monopolized the entertainment industry. President Trump said he was thinking about wearing Kid Rock's All-American jacket tomorrow, which is the day he's going to announce the reciprocal tariffs, the day he has dubbed Liberation Day.
Other countries are understanding it because they've been ripping us for 50 years. Longer, but they've been ripping us off for years, right from the beginning. And I think this is going to be an amazing, I call it a lot of different names, but it's really, in a sense, it's a rebirth of a country because how we could have afforded to do what we did, we help everybody, and they don't help us. I really, the term I like best probably is the liberation of America. It's the liberation of this country because it's incredible. Look, we have $36 trillion in debt for a reason, and that accumulates over a long period of time. So I think what you're going to be seeing over the next couple of days will be very inspiring to a lot of people. They had a lot of auto plants being built in a certain country. I don't want to mention the country because we get along great with the country, but those plants aren't being built there anymore. They gave them up today and yesterday, day before. And they're building them all now in the United States. And we have many examples, not only auto plants, chip companies from Taiwan are coming in. The biggest, Mr. Wei, he's big. I said, you are a smart guy, aren't you? I've been reading about him over the years, but he controls a large portion of the chip business, as you know. You don't get smarter. They're going to be investing $200 or $300 billion. Apple's investing $500 billion. They always built their places in China. Now he's building here. I think because of you speak to Tim Cook, because of the election, but maybe more importantly because of the tariffs. He's got really an obligation to do it. But we have many, many companies that you haven't even heard of. But I think we'll be at $5 trillion very soon. And if you think about this, we've never been anywhere near that. I don't know if we've ever been at $1 trillion. What
do you mean by that?
We're 500. What do I mean by trillion?
5 trillion. What are you referring to, sir?
I think that we're going to be at $5 trillion of investment. I think you're going to have investments very shortly. We're already 3.5, and we have commitments, verbal commitments for a lot more. And numbers like that have never been done in this country. And it's going to get harder. This is in 2 months. It's really in less than 2 months because since we've really gone out with it. And we have other interesting things happening. But to me, the whole tariff situation, and essentially they've done that to us for many years. So if we're anywhere near $5 trillion in 2 months, this could be numbers like the country's never seen. And every time you hear a dollar spent, that's another job because the jobs are coming with it.
All right, so that is tomorrow. Tariffs Day, Liberation Day, which could make for a wild day on Wall Street. And this is a comment a lot of people, especially the mainstream media, are talking about today.
I know it's hypothetical right now, but if you were allowed for some reason to run for a third term, is there a thought that the Democrats could try to run Barack Obama against you?
I'd love that.
For his third term?
Boy, I'd love that. That would be a good one. I'd like that. No, people are asking me to run, and there's a whole story about running for a third term. I don't know. I never looked into it. They do say there's a way you can do it, but I don't know about that. But I have not looked into it. I want to do a fantastic job. We have 4 years, just about, almost close to 4 years. Time is flying, but it's still close to 4 years, and we're getting a lot of credit for having done a great job in the first almost 100 days.
Again, that was at yesterday's Oval Office news conference on Newsmax. The president saying people have talked to him about it. He isn't specifically talking about a third term. So let's be clear about that. First of all, honestly, I am not sure that him or President Obama would be up for that 4 years from now, or actually it'd be like 2.5 years from now when they would start. And honestly, barely 100 days into this term, this is the last time I want to hear anything about that. All right, that's what I can't stand about politics. Let's just focus on what's happening now. For more on today's important congressional race here in Florida, 2 U.S. House seats up for grabs in a special election, we go to Bianca De La Garza.
All the stops are being pulled out in Florida. The seat in Congress held by now National Security Advisor Mike Waltz will be filled tomorrow. It's a special election, and it is State Senator Randy Fine and Democratic candidate teacher Josh Weil vying for this position. Weil has raised more money, but the district leans right. And, of course, President Trump has endorsed Fine, writing that he will work tirelessly with me to strengthen our economy, lower taxes, and secure the border. Pleased to welcome in right now Republican Florida State Senator and congressional candidate Randy Fine. Randy, great to see you and good afternoon.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so a lot at stake in this race, especially when Republicans hold that slim majority in the House that we've been talking about. And we know your win, critical for House Speaker Mike Johnson to pass Trump's agenda. Tell us about your message in these final hours before the special election.
Well, it's a simple message. Voters can vote for me, who will support Donald Trump's agenda. President Trump asked me to run, or they can vote for my opponent, who was endorsed on Friday by Bernie Sanders, who is a proud socialist, who says the first thing he'll do is impeach President Trump if he gets elected. I think in this part of Florida, that dog doesn't hunt. We need people to go to my website, voterandyfine.com, find their precinct, and get out and vote tomorrow.
We've been talking about the seat you're replacing is Mike Waltz, and we just heard from Caroline Leavitt, of course, taking incoming there from, pretty slanted media. They still want to make this signal chat, front page news here, but it's wild when you see some of the disinformation being floated, Randy. There is Democratic Congressman Jamie Raskin on Sunday. This is what he actually said about Steve Witkoff, something that Steve Witkoff has said is not true, yet he perpetuates comments like these on national television about the signal chat while Witkoff was in Russia. Let's play this.
I've got a lot of questions about what happened there, starting with one of the guys on that call, Mr. Witkoff, was literally in the Kremlin using his phone to participate in this signal chat about war plans. Now, tell me that Vladimir Putin was not listening in simultaneously, or his agents were not listening in simultaneously.
What's so astonishing, and maybe not because, question the source, we know it's Raskin, but it's widely been reported by Witkoff himself, and even CBS News had on Wednesday, that phone where the signal chat was not on Witkoff. And he's talking about things like this. People are sick of it. And when you hear a sitting member of Congress and talking like that, and a seat of the man that you will be, filling if you are successful tomorrow, what does that make you think? Especially in light of all the good things that are happening in this administration, whether it be the Houthis and the successful attack, or even just deporting terrorists, which seem to be an issue, as we just heard that line of questioning, Randy.
Well, Democrats lie. I mean, that's what I've observed in the campaign. My opponent literally sent a mailer to Republican voters where he said Randy Fine said, quote, bad things about Social Security. I don't even want to say them because they'll take me out of context.
Right.
But the problem is I didn't say it. It's one thing for people to give their opinion. I think so-and-so will do something. But to literally fabricate a quote that someone didn't said, that shows the depths that these people will go to take power. We're dealing with people who will stop at nothing to hurt President Trump, to impeach President Trump, and to stop the America First agenda, which is why everybody needs to go to voterandyfine.com, find out their polling site, and go and vote. This district is overwhelmingly pro-Trump. Tomorrow, people have to show it.
Florida Republican congressional candidate Randy Fine, and voter turnout is the key issue in these special elections, right? Well, it's the key issue pretty much in all elections, but on April 1st, a Tuesday in April 1st special election, what's the percentage of voters that's going to get out there? You have to get out and vote today. District 6 is actually the district that I live in. Beginning just north of Orlando, includes places like Daytona Beach, Palm Coast, very conservative. The Villages, very conservative, or mostly conservative. Ocala, and a lot of rural areas. His Democratic opponent, Josh Wheel, is a school teacher, single father, as Bianca mentioned, and there's also a race in Matt Gaetz's former district, District 1, in the Panhandle, which is a military area, a lot of military families, considered to be not as competitive of a race as the one here in north central Florida. Then there is the state Supreme Court race in Wisconsin. Back to Bianca and Missouri Representative Jason Smith.
So talk to us about Wisconsin. When you see Elon out there and he is really connecting with people, and I heard some of the Q&A last night, people are looking at him as someone who's not an insider. And if he's willing to put his money where his mouth is, and even, be a little, of course, funny with the cheese hat. But this seems like a winning strategy for this race. But ultimately, where do you think it will go, Congressman?
From my understanding, it is a very razor-thin race, and it could go either way. This race is extremely important because the Democrat who's running has been very vocal about how that they will gerrymander and try to eliminate a couple Republican members of Congress there in Wisconsin. And if you lose two members, the Democrats will control the House of Representatives. We currently have 218 seats. If you lost two, that'd put us at 216, put the Democrats at 217. That is a huge problem.
That's Missouri Representative Jason Smith, chair of the House Ways and Means Committee on Newsmax. And let's jump over to the Senate, where Cory Booker of New Jersey pulled an all-nighter on the Senate floor, in which he mostly criticized the Trump administration's policies and spending cuts for more than 13 hours.
I've seen a lot more people involved in politics in America since Donald Trump was elected than before Donald Trump. And if he leaves office, we got to stay engaged, stay involved, and I'm going to be a president that asks for people to step up.
It's time for us to dream again of a nation that every child has a great public school to go to. It's time for us to dream again that every family has health care, that it's universal for all. It's time for us to dream again that work has dignity and all can retire with security. It's time for us to dream again.
Okay, so I guess he's running for president. As I mentioned in a segment last week when I said we'll have Kamala, AOC, Jasmine Crockett, maybe Cory Booker, maybe Hakeem Jeffries. You remember? Booker's speech was not a filibuster, however, because it's not blocking any legislation or any nomination, but it comes as the Democratic National Committee and two nonprofit groups filed lawsuits against President Trump's executive order to overhaul elections, mainly requiring a valid U.S. ID to register to vote, as almost every other country does. Speaking of valid U.S. ID, 17 illegal immigrant gang members were flown out of the U.S. to El Salvador last night. You may have seen the president tweeting about this, or he put it on Xing about it. He also put it on Truth Social. Border czar Tom Homan spoke about it with Wake Up America this morning.
Trump administration border czar Tom Homan. Tom, you said this was going to happen. You said the judges weren't going to get in your way. You used a different kind of the law. Get out, get to El Salvador.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the judge can rule on the Alien Enemies Act, and we can hold on that, but we'll continue to arrest members of TDA and MS-13 and every other criminal alien that we can find. We'll continue to arrest them. We're going to deport them. We'll use Title 8. We'll use expedited removal. We'll use voluntary departure. But they are not going to walk the streets of this nation. Not anymore. Joe Biden let them in. We're going to take them out.
And when you look at the data, the numbers are astonishing. New reports show border crossings fell again in March, hitting another record with just 7,000 migrant crossings. That's down 94% from last March, where we saw 137,000 enter the country illegally. And this is the big number for me. There has been 113,000 arrests, nearly 100,000 illegal migrants deported since January 20th. Are you happy with the numbers you're seeing?
I'm happy with the border. I think the crossings are down significantly. I mean, these are the lowest numbers I've seen in my career. Look, I started in 1984 as a Border Patrol agent, and we arrested thousands a night down the San Diego sector. But these are the lowest numbers I've seen in over 40 years. I mean, it's probably the lowest numbers ever. But they didn't capture the numbers back in my day, before my day in 1984. So I think these are historic low numbers. But am I happy with the interior enforcement numbers? Yeah, but we need more. We got a lot of criminal aliens we got to find and remove. And sanctuary cities are putting up roadblocks, and it takes a lot of work to arrest an illegal alien, a criminal alien in a sanctuary city, because we can't arrest them in a jail. We got to go to the neighborhood and find them. And these are people that don't want to be found. So am I happy? Yes. Do I want more? Absolutely. So we got to concentrate on more interior enforcement arrests, more targeting, and take on sanctuary cities. Pam Bonnie's suing them. We got to continue to take on sanctuary cities. Sanctuaries are sanctuaries for criminals, and we need to get beyond that.
To that point, Tom, you mentioned sanctuary cities, and you're planning a visit soon to Rochester, New York, after police officers there got scolded by Democrat leaders who claimed the police should not help carry out the arrest of illegal migrants in their area. I mean, what's your message to Rochester politicians and, more importantly, to the police that are actually helping you do your job?
Well, I actually met some of those officers at a police function in Nashville, and I told them I'm coming to Rochester, just like I promised I was going to Chicago, and I promised I was going to Boston, I promised I was going to Denver, and I showed up in every one of these sanctuary cities. But I met these officers. It's just more than that, though, Mark. There was a call for emergency request for assistance. No law enforcement officer should put politics ahead of responding to another agency's call for emergency assistance. Cops should always respond to calls for emergency assistance. It's not about immigration. It's about a law enforcement officer asking for emergency help. And that's what occurred. And these officers that responded did a great job. However, they got sanctioned. They were put on desk duty, and they're being investigated. And I'm going to go to Rochester and find out, why is this like this, and take on the mayor of the city. Now, I've been told just last night that some of the leadership at Border Patrol and some of the leadership at HSI ICE have met with the chief of police, and the chief has guaranteed they will always respond to calls for emergency assistance. Well, I'm going to go up there as promised and check out for myself. And if the mayor wants to meet, we'll meet with the mayor. But law enforcement should always respond to calls for assistance. This is not politics. This is life and death. This is safety. This is community safety.
Yeah, absolutely.
Border czar Tom Homan on Wake Up America this morning. As you likely know, Newsmax made major news yesterday with its IPO on the New York Stock Exchange. This is Newsmax founder and CEO Chris Ruddy talking about it on National Report.
I think it's a testament to the company that people really like the Newsmax brand. Yeah. They saw the results that we've developed in a very short period. We've become a major player in cable news. We've become a major player in the Reuters Institute. We keep talking about that study. They studied all American media. And the way they did the study was interesting. They asked people, what is the media you go to? They didn't have a checklist. And they said, which one, you name it. And we were in the top 12 of all U.S. New York Times, ABC, CBS, NBC. So I think the American people are voting with their remote controls. They're voting with their downloads and saying they want Newsmax. They want Sean Kreisman.
And they can have me Monday through Friday, 9 to noon, each and every day that they want. Just watching this is amazing, and it goes to the success. And in news, we always talk about what's happening now, and obviously it's the shift in this price and people wanting to really get involved and calling their brokers. But if I can, I'd like to jump in a time machine to just go back in time with you, if I can, to 2014.
Sure.
Or really before that. Let's go back to '98, if we can. can.
Oh, wow.
If I know, but digital media platform.
I may need a drink.
Yeah, well, we can do that. I think there's someone around here that serves them up. They ask, and this is a question that maybe a lot of folks have. Chris Ruddy, how did he get started in something like this? I mean, watching your success right now happening on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange here, and everyone that's getting involved, but this really happened back in the 90s for you.
Yeah. I started Newsmax. I was a reporter with the Pittsburgh Tribune Review out of Pittsburgh, and I had this concept of a news web and media site called NEWSMAX.com. I started with a $25,000 investment from the family of William J. Casey, who had been the CIA director under Ronald Reagan. I was raised and lived near the Caseys on Long Island, and his wife and daughter Bernadette have been great supporters through the years. Mrs. Casey passed away. Bernadette is still quite active and is still a strong supporter of Newsmax. But it really started then. I went on to raise $15 million the first few years, burned through $13.5 million, but then turned a profit in 2001. We had so much growth over 15 years, we never needed any more capital until I started the cable news channel. People said you were crazy starting this, you're never going to succeed, no more cable channels, no more news, you're not going to beat Fox and CNN. And we're now 10 years into it, we're number 4 in cable news. We're number 7 in all of cable channels, right, which is amazing. I mean, there's hundreds of cable channels. Right. 7 based on the Nielsen coverage rating. So it's been an amazing ride. But again, I think we haven't done it with a huge amount of capital. We only recently raised $300 million just before this, with the IPO and just before it. But before then, it was mostly audience participation, people deciding that they wanted Newsmax, telling their friends and family to tune in. And I think that's still going on.
Chris Ruddy, founder and CEO of Newsmax, on National Report with Sean Kreisman. A great American story, right? And don't ask Sean to work a weekend. Did you catch that? I am proud to say that I was hired directly by Chris Ruddy, who came up with the concept of the Newsmax Daily podcast. I had interviewed Chris, Mr. Ruddy, on my then radio show several times. On Wall Street, stocks started the day slightly lower this morning, but shares of Newsmax continued in the green, surpassing $120 this morning. Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies were in the green as well. At the time of this recording, Bitcoin was up a little more than $800 at $83,500 and change, and gold is continuing to move higher as well at $31.62, again at the time of this recording. And SpaceX yesterday launched another manned rocket, a crewed mission with paying customers. A Crew Dragon spacecraft carrying cryptocurrency billionaire Chun Wang of Malta and 3 guests on a trip that will orbit directly above Earth's north and south poles, something that has never been done before. The mission launched from the Kennedy Space Force Center here in Florida around 9:46 last night in the dark. All right, be sure to keep up with all of the news all day on Newsmax, N2, and at NewsMax.com. Also, make sure you're streaming on Newsmax Plus. It all starts each and every day with Wake Up America, followed by National Report, Bianca De La Garza, through Greta, Rob Schmidt Tonight, Finnerty, Greg Kelly Reports, and much more. I'm Tony Marino. Thank you, as always, for checking out the Newsmax Daily. Hope you're enjoying it. Enjoy the rest of your day. Watch out for the April Fool's pranksters. And keep on fighting the good fight.
News breaks every minute, every day. You need the app, the Newsmax app. Find it free on your smartphone store. Then watch us anytime, anywhere.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.